السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. أما بعد. Brothers and sisters, we are in the 21st century, year 2019, and no doubt the issue of PTSD, a clinical term that stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD have been described by the experts in the mental health field, from the psychiatrists in dealing with this issue. So we want to address, inshallah, briefly, and hopefully in the coming weeks we will go step by step in dealing with those type of behaviors and traits. But we want to just touch on briefly, can PTSD result from a toxic relationship? Okay? When we're talking about toxic is anything that is poisonous, dangerous, harmful, bad. And what we mean by toxic, that's what we mean. So a relationship can be unhealthy. An unhealthy relationship is a toxic relationship. And a toxic relationship does not require that both people are toxic. Okay? It does not require that both people are toxic. Nor does it require that because someone comes with toxic traits in a relationship, that 9 times out of 10 that relationship cannot work. It's just some unhealthy elements to the relationship that needs to be worked on. And we'll talk about, inshallah ta'ala, in brief, dealing with that as well. Let's get into some of the verses in the Quran, and also how Allah Jalla wa Ala deals with the issue of man and woman, and how Allah Jalla wa Ala addresses the affair of man and woman, so that we can have a broader scope or understanding on what is a healthy relationship. And then we would get to the issue of PTSD, and to answer the actual question about PTSD. First and foremost, as we said before, and we'll say it again now, in a verse that comes in the Quran in the 4th chapter, which is known as An-Nisa, the chapter which is known as the woman. In this chapter, Allah Jalla wa Ala, is a long chapter, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He highlights some key elements and points for both man and woman, and for how men to address and deal with women. Okay? And this is a standard that is set for any couple that get married in Islam, to look at these verses, to analyze these verses, to go over these verses and try to put them in play within your own relationship. There's a fundamental principle when it comes to dealing with man and woman, and we talked about this before, and we're going to mention it now so that you can have a broader, at least repeat it and understand it. A verse where Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says, and this is part of a verse within Surah An-Nisa, Allah Jalla wa Ala say, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ فَإِن كَرِهْتُمُوهُنَّ فَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. In this verse, Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says, and live with them in harmony. Okay? Here Allah Jalla wa Ala is addressing the husbands to live with their wives or their mates and spouses in harmony. And that is the fundamental underlining point when it comes to relationships, is that both parties maintain that harmony. And there are things that are set in place for that harmony to be maintained. We talked about that before, so I don't want to keep beating that in the head. Also, Allah said, فَإِن كَرِهْتُمُوهُنَّ, if something appears from them, from your wives, that you find displeasing or that you dislike, Allah said, فَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا, it is possible that you may dislike something, وَيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا, that Allah brings about much good by way of that thing. So this is in harmony or in conjunction. Rather, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is in conjunction with this ayat here, where the Prophet ﷺ said that if you see something from a believing man or a believing woman that you dislike, then there are other traits that you will like. So do not totally dislike a believer, meaning that you might dislike some traits of a person, of your wife or your spouse, but that don't mean that there are other traits you wouldn't like. So it's in harmony with that. But Allah might bring about a lot of good via this person, even though they might have certain things you don't like. So that's going to bring us to this concept of flaws. What is known as a flaw? Many of us talks about flaws. Okay, so flaws, I like to put it into two categories. A flaw is something that is natural and something that is unnatural. Okay, a natural flaw would be such as the case of forgetfulness. Allah Jalla wa Ala tells us that man is ever forgetful, and the word insan, as the scholars they mentioned, comes from the word nasiya, as is one theory, and that man prone to forget a lot. Allah also tells us that وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانَ هُلُوعًا, that Allah Jalla wa Ala created man in haste, to be hasty. This is another natural flaw. Okay, it's a natural flaw. This is something that a person cannot be blamed in the sense of the word for having, because this wasn't something that is something that is innate, something that the person was either born with, or that is a natural quality that that person has. Okay, that is a flaw that we have to understand, inshallah, and that might have to be, worked on. But then there's the unnatural flaw. And all of this plays a part into toxic relationships. So this is why I'm talking about it. It might seem a little bit, where is he going at with it? Just listen to me. The flaw that is unnatural is what we call, such as a person lying. Say that you get with somebody and they are a habitual liar. They are prone to tell lies. And that person says, well, I've been like this all my life. I've been like this. This is my flaw. This come with me. Accept me for who I am. In this case, this is an unnatural flaw, and this is something that you do not, under no circumstances, have to accept, because this is bad manners. And bad manners is not tolerable or acceptable in Islam. It's not even encouraged. So what the person should do is correct those unnatural flaws, which might be detrimental to their character or to the well-being of the next person. So flaws is important, because when you're dealing with a person and you get involved in a relationship, you two people are two different people. You understand? The man and the woman. Y'all might have lived in the same environment, but not totally in the same household. So you have to take in consideration that y'all both have different patterns, okay? Different habits, different choices, and different upbringing. So there is no way that you can come into a relationship together believing that y'all going to be on the same page on the surface when y'all don't even know each other. Y'all can outwardly be on the same page. What I mean is that y'all can outwardly profess to view things similarly through your religion, which makes y'all compatible in that aspect. But that doesn't mean y'all understand what y'all viewing from your religion similarly. Y'all might don't even understand it to be the same. So the conclusion of one person might be different from the other conclusion. This is why relationships is imperative that they grow collectively. Two people have to grow collectively. You can only do that by getting to know each other. You can only do that by taking the time out to know each other via communication. Staple elements, and Allah Jalla wa Ala talks about this in the Quran, where he mentions for the man to address the woman in the most beautiful of manners when Allah say, وَقُولُوا لَهُنَّ قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا, and say to them a word of kindness. Speak to them with a word of kindness. He actually says this about 2 times in this particular surah, Surah Nisa. Allah Jalla wa Ala mentions in the same breath of providing for them and clothing them to speak to them with an act of kindness. Speak to them with a good word. And this is important. Why? Because communication is key. You both have to communicate. You both have to speak to each other and interact with each other. A relationship's going to require daily or even monthly meetings. Yes, I am saying this. Some of the scholars hold that the marital contract is a business contract. And we already know that in corporate business, we know that there are in corporations, they have what we call board meetings. And a husband and a wife should have a meeting. And some of you might say, well, where can we find this at in the Quran and the Sunnah, brother? Well, we mentioned this before, that the Prophet ﷺ consulted with his wives. And we mentioned to you those narrations where the Prophet ﷺ consulted with his wife. So you should have a meeting with your wife. And if Allah bless y'all with family or children, you should have a family meeting. This is imperative. There's nowhere in the world a person should come into a marriage and still behave as if they're single or as if they are alone. You have to understand there are 2 things that must be met in a relationship. There is a personal development and then there's a collective development. The personal development is responsible of each person. Each person is going to strive to the best of their abilities, inshallah, to grow personally. And that's whether it be spiritually, mentally, physically, all of that, all of the above, etc. But then they have to worry about coming together collectively. And when you look at the rights are 3. You have the husband's rights, you have the wife's rights, and then you have shared rights between them both. Okay? So you have a set of rights that's only for the husband, and you have a set of rights that's only for the wife, and then you have shared rights that are shared between both parties. The same thing with personal growth and collective growth. But the key is whenever the personal growth of one of the spouses is stunted or is halt or has regressed, it stunts and it prevents the collective development from taking place. All right, so let me give you an example. If so-and-so, a husband and a wife, if the wife or if the husband for some reason is going through a personal battle, the husband cannot get over some personal things that he might have. He have a particular sin or a particular act of disobedience that he's engaging in, and he cannot get over that. That sin in and of itself, that struggle that the husband is fighting, it's going to have the potential harm of affecting the collective development between the husband and the wife. And I can bring many proof, but I'm just going to give you some of them. One of them is that it mentions that the Salaf used to mention how they say that if one person, if I was disobedient, I would see the effects of that disobedience on in my riding beast or with my, with my family or so forth and so on. So they seen how sins affected their actual relationship. And the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud anhu brings this to light when he said that there is not 2 people who love each other except that they separate due to a sin, due to an act of disobedience. Then the hadith of Hudayfa when he came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said that rather my wife has a sharp tongue with me. And the Prophet ﷺ said, where are you from seeking istighfar, seeking forgiveness, right? Showing you that your act of disobedience is not just towards yourself, it's towards that partner. Y'all affect. Also, there's another hadith that mentioned the Prophet ﷺ said that whoever stays in a relationship with a partner, especially a wife who is disobedient, the dua is prevented from being answered. So we see how in these different athars and hadiths, it shows us that how sins and disobedience and negligence, which is a personal growth or a personal development, can affect the overall relationship. So imagine if you got two people, as Ibn al-Qayyim said, you got two people, you got a husband and a wife, and they both going in two different directions. So if they have a child, which direction should the child go? The husband wants to pour this way, the wife wants to pour this way. There is no harmony there. So they're pulling to two separate separations. So it's important that when you both come into the relationship, y'all have to come into the relationship with the understanding that y'all are going to grow together. Y'all going to take your personal challenges and y'all going to improve them. Okay? Pay attention to the verses. وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Live with them. Y'all moving in together. But y'all must maintain harmony. How is that going to be done? Allah said clothe them. Allah said provide for them. Allah said speak to them with kindness. Allah said overlook them. Overlook their faults. Allah said pardon their faults. Allah said forgive them. These are the things that Allah has said when dealing with the women. For men, Allah tell the women to be obedient. Allah tell the women to be righteous. How do a woman be righteous? By doing what? By guarding her 5 prayers, as the Prophet ﷺ said. By praying during the month of Ramadan. Right? How else? What else she do? By obeying her husband. Okay? These are the signs of how she can become righteous. At the end of the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, it would be said to that woman that you can enter any door of paradise from what you want to enter. So pay attention to that. Ain't this important? So you see how everything is correlated. Another thing is, now that y'all have this, y'all living together, y'all actually together, take in consideration y'all come from 2 different backgrounds. In order for that gap to be bridged, in order for you to bridge that gap between you, it's going to take communication, healthy communication. It's going to take dialogue. It's going to take mutual respect. That's what the rights are there for. Those shared rights between the two establish that ihtiram, that respect that y'all supposed to have for one another. And then you're going to need something to guide you to other than your personal feelings and your emotions. And that is, nowhere in the world should 2 people be together and they should be consulting with, they should be referring back or directing back to themselves on how to deal with the relationship. No, you have to have a guide that preside over top of your relationship. And that is Kitab wa Sunnah. That is Kitab wa Sunnah. And if any one partner don't want to refer back to Kitab wa Sunnah, then that's something that that partner has within them that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove it from them, and they have to work on it. And it's not the other partner's fault that they want to consult with the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Book of Allah. You remind them of them verses, because it's funny, right? Because in the verse, Allah Jalla wa Ala said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulu amri minkum fa in tanaza'tum fi shay'in farudduhu ila Allah wa rasulihi in kuntum tu'minuna billahi wa yawmil akhir ila akhir hadhihi al-ayah, to the end of this verse. Oh, you who believe, obey Allah and obey His messenger. Right? So here the restriction is that you obey Allah, obey His messenger, and you obey those who are in authority amongst the scholars and amongst the rulers. Then Allah say, if you have a dispute or dissension or conflict or disagreement between yourselves, then refer it back to Allah and His messenger. Now the condition, if you believe in Allah in the last day, right, you're going to refer it back to Allah and His messenger. Right? This is important. Referring back to Allah and His messenger. Barakallahu feek. The understanding of the Salaf, alhamdulillah, is imperative. So you might don't hear me say with the understanding of the Salaf. Only reason why you might don't hear me saying it, because it should be understood. Inshallah, it should be understood. What we quote from the ayats and what we quote from the hadith, inshallah ta'ala, are authentic, and the ayats are there, and we are quoting from the mufassirun, those who the ulama have agreed upon that are sound and their religious knowledge and so forth, that's in agreement with that. So we might don't mention the Salaf all the times, but it's understood, alhamdulillah. So in these verses, Allah is telling you that you have to refer back to Allah and His messenger, but pay attention to the verses that come after it. There were, as Ibn Kathir mentioned in the Asbabu Nuzul, in his tafsir, the verse that comes after it, Allah Jalla wa Ala says that when it is said to them, وَإِذَا كِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا, to come to the ruling of Allah and His messenger. Pay attention. They say that no, we prefer to go to the ruling of the Taghut. And this was an incident that took place between a believer and a non-believer, where the non-believer, the Jew, was telling the believer to come, let's go to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam so that he can judge in between us over this matter, this dispute that we have. And the believer wanted to go somewhere else instead of going to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah sent down these verses explaining the importance of going and accepting the ruling of Allah and His Messenger over the ruling of anything else. So when a person's sitting there telling you that they don't want to refer back to Allah and His Messenger, and you're my wife or you're my husband, and I don't want to hear that, I want to refer back to this, refer back to that, then you remind them of how close they are to nifaq. You remind them of these verses that deal with hypocrisy. Allah said, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُونَكَ فِي مَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ ثم لا يجدون في أنفسهم حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما. Allah said, He said, say no by your Lord. Allah make us swear here. Say no by your Lord. They cannot truly believe. They cannot have true iman, complete iman, meaning the iman kamil. They cannot have complete iman until they make you, O Muhammad, a judge between all of them, all of their disputes. Okay, that which has occurred between them. And they find within themselves no difficulty whatsoever in accepting the ruling of the Prophet ﷺ. This refers to husband and wife. I hope you do know. This also comes in Surah An-Nisa. So don't think that this verse is not talking about husband and wife. No, it refers to husband and wife as well. So you should never, ever find yourself in a situation where you don't want to refer back to Allah and His Messenger. If you are in a relationship, you have to realize that is the presiding rule. The rule is Allah and His Messenger. That's what we're going to go by. That's going to be what we're going to refer to. Okay? Now, before I went off on that little rant, then Allah Jalla wa'ala, He says something very imperative, and I mentioned this ayat before, and I want to mention it again so that we can have understanding of these verses and how we can utilize them. Allah Jalla wa'ala, He says in Surah An-Nur, the 24th chapter of the Quran, Allah Jalla wa'ala, He says, Al-khabithatu lil-khabithina wal-khabithuna lil-khabithat. وَالطَّيِّبَاتُ لِلطَّيِّبِينَ وَالطَّيِّبُونَ لِلطَّيِّبَاتِ Al-Ayah. And this verse, Allah Jalla wa'ala, as Ibn Kathir and Muhsin Khan and Sheikh Salim Halilali in their translation, and the Noble, they explained that bad statements are for bad people and bad statements. Then they say bad people are for bad people. Evil people are for evil people. This is for both male and female, okay? Because Allah said, وَخَبِيثَاتِ bad women, لِلْخَبِيثِينَ are for bad men, okay? وَخَبِيثُونَ bad men are for خَبِيثَات, bad, evil, and despicable women. This ayat highlights to us an important point, and that is birds of a feather flock together. In a nutshell, you're going to find people being attracted to their likes. What's the similarities between them? So you're going to, if you're attracted to that filth, or you're attracted to anything that's despicable or horrible, then that's what's inside you, and you need to look at it, okay? So understanding this is that there's never going to be two people who are perfect that's going to come together and everything just going to click. No, it can be two people that can be in sync with one another, okay? They can actually agree on a lot of things. And alhamdulillah, sometimes we term that to be our soulmate, so to speak. And that's another talk altogether, whether or not we believe in the concept of soulmate. But there are some evidence that point that there are certain similar souls that are actually resemble each other, and and so forth. And we'll go to over those hadiths. Tayyib, so let's stick to hand. So a toxic relationship is just an unhealthy relationship, okay? PTSD. I want you to pay attention now. How does this occur? Because there is imbalance or unbalance within the relationship itself. And PTSD, we're going to talk about PTSD and what it comes and what are the symptoms from the experts, and what they say about it is some type of trauma that happened, or a past trauma that happened, and it can result verbally, it can result in physical abuse, it can result in something that they saw that was detrimental, that they have witnessed. It can be a murder, it can be like a lot of veterans and stuff, killing people they have killed, or explosions, or people they have seen, their fallen comrades they have witnessed being, a leg being blown off or something like that, something that's traumatic as that. Or it can be something as simple as verbal abuse or physical abuse, okay? And yes, toxic mean an abusive relationship. Yes, abuse can be in it as well, verbal, physical, emotional, all of that stuff. Even spiritually abuse can happen. Toxic is just anything that's poisonous or dangerous. Yes, that's what we mean. So, can PTSD result from a toxic relationship? Let's understand something first. Many of us, when we get together, who are we following the actual guideline of a relationship? Or are we following what we believe to be right as far as our passion, our ishq? Because a lot of people, when they get together, they're just me, this person, I'm attracted to them, she attracted to me, and then blah, blah, blah. And then we go out and then we focus on the bedroom and we focus on that spunk in the relationship. And then we forget that there is a whole nother world. You have to grow with this person. You have to share things with this person. You have to actually develop things with this person. If you have children, y'all have to rear and raise those children together. If you have responsibilities, y'all have to watch out. If that person becomes sick, what do you do? If that person is not just sick physically, but that person is sick mentally and so forth, how do you handle that? How do you deal with this situation? It's a whole lot of stuff that goes with relationships that got nothing to do with the bedroom. And sometimes many of us only focus on making our partners an object of the bedroom. Many of us, I can actually take some accountability here, because when we get married, most of the times all we see is passion. We like the person, we're physically attracted to the person, and then we have relations. But outside of that, what do we do? Do we take the time out to know that particular person that we are in this relationship with? Do we take our time out to really communicate with that particular person that we say that we are in a relationship with? How are you with someone? You're sharing their body, you're sharing their bed, you're sharing the more intimate parts of them, and you don't know nothing about them. How? You don't know nothing about the person you're with. You don't know their dislikes. You don't know their likes. You don't know what makes them tick, what doesn't make them tick. You don't know anything about them. And how? That's not harmony. وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. You should get comfortable enough that you know your spouse. You know your significant other. You know your partner. It should never be a situation which breeds unhealthiness when you come into a relationship wanting the other partner to save you. That concept is unhealthy in and of itself. Allah never made where marriage is supposed to be a savior. Marriage only is a protection and a shield from zina. Lowering the gaze and protecting the private parts is the means of marriage. Okay, don't get me wrong. That's a protection, but not to save you from things that you have experienced throughout your life. It's not there to save you from that. You understand? Your partner should not have that role or that responsibility to do that for you. But you should come together and help each other doing that. So I'll tell you, Allah said, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم فالصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن واهجروهن في المضاجع واضربوهن فإن أطعنكم فلا تبغوا عليهن سبيلا إن الله كان عليا كبيرا. In this verse, Allah lays down a foundation for both men and women. And we went over this many a times. It's not the time for that. I'm not going to go into detail about this verse. But he lays down the actual, how would you want to say it, the patriarch or the matriarch, how it's actually supposed to be laid down, the leadership, everything. Men, women, okay? Men, woman, okay? In the relationship, the head of the household is the man, okay? Due to those qualities that Allah Jalla wa Ala has given him in this verse, if he are fulfilling those qualities. A woman not naturally going to let you take lead if you're not fulfilling those qualities. And I don't think you should take lead if you're not fulfilling those qualities anyway. But if you're filling those qualities, then you should take leave. No man should take leave because he's a male. I said it right then and there. I don't agree with that. And my proof of that is that when the scholars explain rujula, masculinity, they don't harper on the fact that a person is a male member. They harper on different things that brings about rujula, okay, such as a person growing, in the case of, a person growing his beard, a person praying in congregation, a person guarding his prayer, a person sticking to his principles, a person taking care of his responsibilities, a person doing these things here leads what we call a rujula, masculinity. So when a man is fulfilling these roles, then he has some rujula, which demands a certain respect from that particular woman, which, and 9 times out of 10, that woman will fall in line if those things are there. Okay? Now, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you that what type of woman you should select and what type of woman that will obey this. And we talked about that for salihatu, hafithatu, qanitatu, and so forth, the righteous, the obedient, and so forth and so on. Then Allah Jalla wa Ala tells you the remedy, how to deal with marital discord. I want you to pay attention now. In this verse, Allah goes over the remedy. How do you remedy marital discord between two spouses? Allah tells you what to do. There are 4 stages that a couple must go through before they get to the final stage, which is divorce. Okay? And in those 4 stages, Allah tells you first, فَإِذُوهُنَّ. Okay, so when you find that your wife is in the state of nushuz, and a man can be in the state of nushuz as well, as it comes in later on in this surah, when Allah talks about a man being in nushuz. But a woman being in nushuz or being disobedient or being disruptive to that harmony and so forth, Allah said the first thing you do is you admonish them with the book of Allah and the sunnah. You don't admonish them with just yourself. I'm the man, you supposed to listen to me, woman. That's barbaric. Islam don't condone that. I don't got one narration. You can't bring me one narration that the Prophet ﷺ ever spoke to his woman like that. Any of his wives, did he ever speak to them because I am a man? Yeah, nushuz is when a woman is being disobedient towards her husband, far as she's not giving him his necessary rights, or she falling short in giving him his necessary rights. This can be a case of what we call nushuz. But do you got one case or one evidence that you can bring me that the Prophet ﷺ spoke to his woman and said, because I'm the man, you supposed to obey? We be tripping, don't we? I'm the man. All right, you a male. You got a male member, okay. What makes you a man? Are you guarding your prayer? Are you sticking to your principles? Allah said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu lima taqulu ma la taf'alun. Kabura maqtan inda Allahi an taqulu ma la taf'alun. Oh, you who believe, why do you say that which you do not do? Most hated in the sight of Allah is that you say that which you do not do. Are you a man of your word? Are you loyal? Are you trustworthy? Can you be trusted? Huh? Or is your loyalty compromised? Or do you understand loyalty inside of Quran and Sunnah? Because loyalty outside of Quran and Sunnah, I don't look at that. We look at loyalty in the perspective of Quran and Sunnah. Are you loyal? Are you respective of your spouse, your significant other? Do you make them feel safe? Do you make them feel appreciated, valued? That they are something, that they are precious, that they are not just there for you to do what you like because you're married to them. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. 9 times out of 10, a relationship becomes unhealthy due to upsetting the balance that Allah has laid down and disrupting the harmony that you has been ordered to do. So when you disrupt the balance by either one, loving the person more than you love yourself, loving the person more than they love themselves, then that is an unbalance. It should be no way in the world you should be in a couple or relationship where you're loving the person more than they love themselves. No, that's unbalanced. That's unhealthy. Because now what that's going to bring about and what that's going to breed is a form of control. And that control is going to come in the form of insecurity, the form of obsession. Okay? When you obsess with something that is incorrect, that is wrong. But that's meaning you're transgressing beyond bounds. When you come obsessed with a person, because now you want control of that particular person. And you must understand, in a relationship, control is with the person and not with the other spouse. You're not responsible to control the people you're with. Allah says, save you and your family from the hellfire. He did not say force them. He did not say force them to do anything. He did not say compel them to do anything. He did not say you can do. No. If you find yourself having to control the movements, the whereabouts, the everything about that other person, that's unhealthy, that is toxic, and you need to fix that and remedy that and acknowledge and take accountability that you are the toxic one now in the relationship. Okay? Because you have to understand that. You're the toxic one. You can't come in somebody's relationship and make it unhealthy. Balance. Rights. Respecting each other. Mutual respect. It's okay for your wife to disagree with you. I'm going to say that again too. It is okay for your wife to disagree with you, brother. It is okay for the brother to disagree with his wife. But what is not okay to do, and what is not right to do, is now force or boycott or make a stance between the husband and the wife over the disagreement. That's not cool. The Prophet ﷺ has reported in his seerah, in his biography, that his wives, they said that when the Prophet ﷺ would become mad, they said that when the Prophet ﷺ, we knew when the Prophet ﷺ would become angry with us. We knew when the Prophet ﷺ would be mad. When Allah's right is being trampled. When the religion of the Sharia of Allah was being trampled, that's when the Prophet ﷺ would become angry with his wives. When they do something against the deen. Imagine if we can do that. That's when they become upset. Not when they do something towards him. You understand? The women were complaining, the Prophet wives. He separated from them for 29 days. This was after Umar ibn Khattab had chastised Hafsa, the mother of the believers, anha. And this is when Abu Bakr had chastised Aisha, anha, the mother of the believers. And this is also in Surah At-Tahrim, when Allah Jalla wa Ala tells Muhammad, and he tells the woman, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, that rally the believers and the angels, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is better for the Prophet ﷺ than you knew. And Allah defended the Prophet ﷺ, and he let them go for that 29 days. But the Prophet ﷺ never took a stance against his wives if it wasn't about Allah. You see? And this is how we need to be. We need to understand how to deal with our women. If that woman is not going against the injunction of the Quran and the Sunnah, you're going to have to overlook some things. If that woman seems as if, because she's come from a bent rib, that's another hadith, and that if you try to straighten it, you break it. And if you break it, if you bend it more, you're going to break it. So how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you deal with it? You leave it intact is what you do. You understand? You leave that bent rib intact. Okay? You remind that bent rib of the favors of our Lord, the injunctions of our Lord, and instruct her on that. But you do not try to force her to do something. Likewise, you women, you cannot force your men to behave and act the way you want them to behave and act. When you step in that realm of trying to change the other partner, you're going to do something that is going to become unhealthy and toxic. Allah did not place it upon us. Allah said, Inna Allah la yughayyiru bi anfusikum. Allah does not change the state or the how of the people until they change the condition of themselves. He did not make it upon any of us to change the condition of another person. So do not come in any relationship thinking you're going to change anything. But you can encourage, you can advise, you can help improve the relationship. And another bonus real quick before I go into PTSD and then I'm going to stop. Another bonus real quick is to understand this, that when two people are together in a relationship, to keep it balanced, they have to recognize each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses. Okay? And they have to understand that a relationship is not beneficial if y'all not working to do that which is right. Allah Jalla wa Ala says in the Quran, وَتَعَوَّنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَوَّنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. This also applies to relationships, husband and wives. Aid one another in righteousness and piety, and do not aid one another in sins and transgression. A man or a woman that wants a person to be with them, because this is how it is in the streets, and I'm gonna keep it 100. In the streets, we think loyalty is when a person accepts our bad flaws and all. When a person is really to just be there for us, thick and thin, do whatever. Sin, righteousness, whatever. He got my back, she got my back, we ride, this. No, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. No, we do not support you in your bad. We do not support your bad behavior. We do not support your ill manners. We do not do that. We discourage you from those things and we advise you to leave them off and to improve yourself better. That's what we do. And if you continue and persist and remain consistent upon being disobedient and upon being upon that way, we separate from you in kindness. This is what we do. And this is loyalty in Islam. Loyalty is that I love you for the sake of Allah, and I will hate you for the sake of Allah, and I will separate you for the sake of Allah, and I will distance myself from you for the sake of Allah. This is loyalty. My loyalty is only going to be to you in your adherence to Quran and Sunnah. That's period. Not what you got between your legs. Not how you make me feel in the bedroom. Not how you make me feel when I look at you. Not where we go out to eat. Not if we post pictures on the gram. Not if we take trips to here and there. None of that is loyalty. Loyalty is defined by Quran and Sunnah. That person's love to Quran and Sunnah is where they're going to get the loyalty from you from. And the problem is we have blurred them lines. We don't know what loyalty is. So we think that loyalty is that a person is supposed to be the loyal to you. No. Pay attention what the Prophet ﷺ said to that woman. The Prophet ﷺ called her back. She said, how are you? He asked her, how are you with your husband? She said to him, I tried to fulfill all of his rights, and whatever I fall short in, I fall short in. He said, make sure you obey your husband, because that's where your paradise or your hellfire lies. Pay attention. Obeying the husband is obeying Allah. The woman should always remember, instead of thinking of obeying the husband, she should be thinking of obeying Allah. So when she's obeying Allah, that's the only reason why she's obeying the husband. Likewise, the husband is providing and taking care of that woman because he is obligated from Allah. And when he look at it as an obligation from Allah Azza wa Jal, then that husband in turn can give the rights its due rights. You understand? The problem comes in again. We always try to do it our own way. The Prophet ﷺ made dua, oh Allah, do not leave us to ourselves for the blinking of an eye. So how you coming around and trying to make it your own way? You don't got the answers. You can't do it your own way. You got to go back to some divine structure. You can't do it your own way. No. The wife nor the husband. Y'all have to go back to Allah and His Messenger. Last but not least, PTSD. Can it result? Okay, so if one spouse has suffered from some type of trauma, and the one thing about the experts, they said that trauma is, one thing about the experts, they said that trauma is, when a person is traumatized, they said that trauma is, it can happen over a period of months. It can be triggered by something over a period of years. And it does not necessarily mean during the time that the trauma actually hit, that's when they're going to react towards that trauma. It can take years for that trauma to actually be triggered, okay? So when you're dealing with someone who might have symptoms of PTSD, post-traumatic distress disorder, of any kind, whether verbal, whether physically, whether emotionally, you have to realize you're going to have to be extra care. You're going to have to deal with them with extra care, and you're going to have to be more sensitive now to the situation, okay? So toxic relationship does not bring about PTSD. I'm going to repeat this again, and I want you to understand where I'm going at with this. PTSD can occur, can result from dealing with traumatic experiences. But just because a person is unhealthy or bad does not necessarily mean you're going to get PTSD. All right? I hope you understand what I'm saying. Clinically now, what the experts are saying. They saying if you're in a relationship with a person who is a PTSD, person who have that syndrome, it does not necessarily mean you will get symptoms from it. Yes, they agree to that. But they don't agree that you will actually get the full-blown whole thing of PTSD. Okay? I just want you to understand what I'm trying to say. So, you could become affected by the toxic person. Yes, you can, because everything in life, every experience we go through in life leaves an imprint on us. We all are going to experience something. We're going to feel something by it, okay? So when you're dealing with someone with PTSD, and they really got it, they clinically have been diagnosed with PTSD, then you have to take in consideration, again, you're going to have to use sensitive gloves when dealing with that person. And you're going to have to be honest with yourself whether or not you want to continue to deal with something or someone like that. But we cannot come in a relationship, man, with this toxic behavior that we have built. Human beings are only consist of two things: choices and patterns. Okay? Choices and patterns. And I know y'all have seen the statement of Ibn al-Qayyim, how thoughts form into decisions, ideas leads to this and that, and then the actual action happen. Similar to what the Prophet ﷺ said, that zina is made with the eyes, zina is made with the ears, and zina is made with the hands. It is actually the members, the actual members, the private parts that confirm the actual zina. And there are certain things that leads up to it. This is why Allah Jalla wa'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, and He did not say وَلَا تَفْعَلْ. He said, do not come near to any of the means that leads to zina, and He did not say do not do zina. Okay, to block off those means or any means that leads to it. So yes, there are things that can happen that'll lead us to that. But when dealing with someone who has a pattern that they have built up from previous relationships and never addressing and dealing with their trauma, they're going to come into the new relationship and bring in that baggage. That baggage is now going to affect the person who is not toxic, the person who is not unhealthy, the person who has not. So that's going to leave a residue. And depending on how, the intensity, and depending on what actually took place from the toxic person to the non-toxic person, is which going to signify how deep the symptom of that PTSD might affect that person that was non-toxic. Because I'm going to tell you what cuts deep: betrayal. When you are betrayed by someone that you hold in high esteem on any level, it leaves a scar that may not be healed. And when it's not healed, it leaves a set of imprints that whenever that person think about that betrayal or see things that triggered that betrayal, that person might result into anxiety attacks. That person might result into different things that now has affected their social life. It has affected their self-esteem. It has affected the way that they move about in their personal life. Some people even lead with these symptoms, as the expert says. Some people lead to suicidal tendencies or thoughts of wanting to harm themselves because of the way they feel. Some people don't even want to go out and face the world no more because of the way they feel. When you leave a relationship that is toxic, it wears down on you. It drains your energy. And somehow what it does, and I hope that Allah protect all of you women, just as well as protect all of us men, but really protect you women to stop, do not blur the lines. A bad man doesn't mean a bad religion. Okay? Islam is not bad because you have a bad husband. I'm going to repeat that again. Islam in no shape, fashion, or form is bad because you had a bad husband. Okay? I want you to stop. Don't blur them lines. If you have a bad experience with a bad husband, that don't mean that Islam was bad or it's not for you. Okay? You do not give up your deen for no one. You understand? For no one. All right? None. But just to say, what happened is that person now no longer feel like they want to participate in the religion. They don't want to participate in through things no more because they like, yo, this guy or this woman have took me through the ringer. Took me through the ringer. And you know what kills a non-toxic person when dealing with someone with this traumatic or this unhealthy relationship? You know what kills them the most? Is the explanation why. Always trying to explain or figure out why the person is the way they are or why that person did that particular thing to you. And you will overthink it and overthink it and overthink it because it won't make sense to you when the person keep telling you they did it for this and they did it for that. And it doesn't make sense. And you're still trying to say, well, after everything, why? And when you can't get that why, which you already got the why, but you're just ain't accepting it. But when you can't get that why, it bothers you. And it leaves you in that state of confusion, that state of unclosure, that state of dissatisfaction. Now you don't want to move on. You understand? So we ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to realize that we are not the best of people and that we all come from trauma in some form, fashion, or another. And that we all witness either in two-parent homes or in broken homes. Not everyone. Some people have been blessed with parents that were the best, alhamdulillah. But we all come from some type of form of trauma that hit us. This is why in Islam, what does it say? It says, do not commit sins publicly. Do not harm no one publicly. And at the very least, what you should do is what? Keep your harm away from others. What does Islam tell us to do? Keep your harm away from others. That goes with everything. If you know you're a bad person, you know, and I'm not saying bad person in the sense that you don't got no good with you. I'm saying if you know you have created bad habits or patterns over the years, then really take some self-reflection and be honest with yourself. Don't go into somebody's relationship and bring all that baggage with you. Clean that baggage up. Be transparent. You want to be in a relationship, you have to be transparent. I didn't even get to that part, but in the series, I'm going to go through everything, inshallah ta'ala. I'm going to try to explain and pull out those ayahs to show us what we're supposed to be in order to achieve that healthy relationship. We're not going to achieve that healthy relationship because we still got personal growth to do. So it's never going to reach the collective stage between you and that other person because you haven't addressed your personal issues that you have not overcome. And because you're now bringing that personal baggage over to the other person, and then you are blaming that other person, insulting the other person, telling that other person that they are not with you or patient or not, etc., etc., etc. How you figure they're not patient? When do they have to be patient with your harm? Why do they have to be patient with your harm? Why do they have to accept your harm? Why? Is it fair to them that now they have to accept all of what you throw out to prove to you some type of falsified love? Because that's not love. You ain't supposed to harm nobody intentionally, let alone a Muslim. Allah already said that. Inna ladina yu'duna mu'minina wa mu'minat. Those who actually annoy the believing men and believing women, faqad buhtanan. Allah said without any just cause, but faqad buhtanan. I read this idea the other day. Indeed, they have committed a manifest error or slander by doing what? Annoying the believers intentionally. You have a bad habit of character and patterns, and then you're going in and you're saying, I'm going to go mess with this person. No, go get fixed. Get fixed. Brothers and sisters, if you cannot do 4 things within the relationship, do not accept it. If communication is not clear, y'all cannot dialogue. Y'all cannot communicate with one another. Y'all do not understand the types of communications there are, whether verbally, whether writing it down, whether through expression, like the 5 love languages, whether through any of these channels that y'all cannot communicate on. That is a red flag that you do not go into that relationship. Number 2, if there is no trust level there, meaning the trust have to come from the strength of a person's faith. You understand? That person's faith is going to be exuded throughout the dealings or interactions of that person, which shows that person what they are. The Prophet ﷺ, before he became a prophet, when he was 6 years old, he was given the name Al-Amin. He was given the name the trustworthy one because of how he was. He was trustworthy. He was a person that a person can leave. Even the enemies will leave their weapons with him. They didn't have to feel like any or their belongings would be taken because he was not such that would steal or take anything from them. These are praiseworthy. These are integral parts of the relationship, and these are praiseworthy qualities. Likewise, another thing is what we call loyalty. Okay, communication, trust, loyalty. We already talked about what loyalty is and how loyalty is achieved. And then the last one is we're going to talk about what we call mutual respect. All four of these components are integral to any relationship enduring. If any four of these components are missing or they are violated, then that relationship is going to crumble. When you violate someone's trust, when you violate someone's respect, and when you violate someone's loyalty, you become disloyal. And when you cannot be communicative, meaning we cannot talk, how are we going to grow? There's no development if we can't talk and we can't have discourse. So when you can't do these four things, you are causing that relationship to fall, and you are bringing about toxicity. Okay? Islam teaches about accountability and holding ourselves accountable. That's what Islam teaches us. That's why it's important when you leave a religion. When you leave a relationship, it's important that you be honest with yourself. You should not leave the relationship, and I'm going to end it with this. I took too long. You should not leave a relationship, and this is something that I took self-reflection on. Do not leave a relationship blaming the other party. If you have to leave a relationship where the blame has to be directed towards the other party, then you have to be honest with yourself. What role did you play within this whole scheme of things? Depersonalize or detach yourself from that. Because Allah ordered us when we divorce, we have to divorce in kindness. You cannot divorce in kindness at all if you're holding personal grudges. If you're blaming someone personally, how can you divorce in kindness? It's not possible. It's not possible. So in order to release a person in kindness and fair treatment, you don't hold personal grudges. You understand the issue at its root. You understand what the person is responsible for and what you're responsible for. You understand what unhealthy traits that person had that cause you to be unhealthy. And you look at that and you separate the two. That way you are able to look the person in the eye and realize that it wasn't going to work between you and that person. Alhamdulillah. And that's what it is. And you don't hold no personal grudges towards that person. It did not work. The Prophet ﷺ did not hold any personal grudges towards the woman who he married, and she said to him when he went to her, "A'udhu billahi mink, I seek refuge in Allah from you." The Prophet ﷺ released her immediately, and he did not hold any personal grudges towards her. He just let her go. You understand? So you want to make sure whenever you leave a relationship, you don't leave the relationship with anger, because that anger, that pent up resentment, that grudge is really what it's doing. It's going to fester, and it's going to cause you not to see things properly, and it's going to hold you up. You're not ready to move on nowhere because you're still holding on to whatever you think the other party did to you. Be honest with yourself. That other party probably was already broken. The other party probably already had those traits. That other party probably already been messed up. And if that was the case, then we can't use that as a means for us. We had to really, inshallah ta'ala, look at that. So maybe, inshallah, we talked about a mouthful. I'm getting ready to stop, inshallah. But alhamdulillah, man, like I said, toxic relationships are unhealthy relationships. That's all they are. And that can happen where we're verbally, physically, emotionally. And there are ayats that tells us how to deal with each other and how to remove toxicity anyway. And PTSD is real. No one should feel accountable or wrong because they have a post-traumatic stress disorder. I wanted to make this disclaimer. If anyone you know that is diagnosed clinically with any PTSD, you should not hold them accountable in the sense that they should feel bad because they have went through what they have went through. because they have experienced something that probably was out of their control, okay? So do not make them feel blameworthy because they might have PTSD. And all of us suffers a form of something, all right? So just try not to make the other party feel down for that. And a lot of us, we really do need help. Alhamdulillah, man, I need therapy myself. We all need therapy. But relationships, man, is really not hard to figure out. It's just that is what we really what are we using as the guidelines for our relationship, and are we holding to them things? If you're basing relationship off of passion, it's not going to work. Passion should be in relationship, but it should not be based off of passion. If you're basing relationship off attraction, it's not going to work. Attraction should be a part of relationship, but it should not be based off of it. You understand what I'm saying? You should base it off a spiritual foundation, the essence, what the Prophet ﷺ said. Marry the one with deen. This is important because everything else is going to come from it. That's what you should base it off, okay? And you can't base relationship off of love neither. My theory is that love needs to grow. Love is never just from the beginning. It needs to grow. I'm talking about romantic love now. I'm not talking about love from a mother or a parent to a child. That's natural love, okay? But love from two people needs to grow. And that only can happen when y'all come together and grow, okay? It needs to grow, inshallah. Whatever he said I was incorrect is from myself and the shaitan. Whatever said it's correct is from Allah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallahu khairan.